What's going on, everybody? It is currently 2:30 in the morning on a Thursday night, and I have just rolled the credits for Doom: The Dark Ages, and I have processed what I've just played, and yeah, I've got some thoughts. This is not going to be one of those everything is amazing hype train breakdowns. This is just the truth from someone who's been into Doom since 2016 and has loved what ID has been doing with the rebooted series. So here's the thing. The Dark Ages is good, there's no question about it. But they've made some changes, some big changes, depending on who you are. They're either going to click or they're going to rub you the wrong way. Let's start with the combat, since that's what you're here for. When I first heard they were going for a stand-and-fight approach, I was skeptical. Because Doom has always been about movement. Eternal especially made you feel like you were on a skateboard in hell, juggling 12 weapons and flying across arenas with style. Slowing things down just sounded like a complete dishonorment to the series. But after a few hours in the Dark Ages, I eventually came around. Yes, it's heavier. You've got a shield now, parries, a power gauntlet, and they're asking you to commit the fights more. But you can still move, fast even. There's this misconception floating around online that the new combat is sluggish, and it's not. It's just a different kind of fast. There's less constant dashing and more controlled aggression. Once you get the feel for it, once you start mastering those parry windows and chaining kills with melee follow-ups, it flows in its own way. And it's not worse, it's just different. And that shield, yeah, I rolled my eyes at first. I thought it'd be gimmicky, and at the same time, I'm not trying to play Souls-like. Turns out it's actually kind of a beast. You can throw it, block with it, bash enemies in the walls. It adds another layer without feeling forced. I still prefer the pure gunplay, but I can't deny the shield fits the tone of the game. The weapons are mostly great. The shotgun's chunky, the shredder's a nice addition, and the gauntlet punches feel like they've got weight to them. But the shotguns especially, man, I loved the shotguns. They absolutely nailed the feel, whether it's the tight spread of the standard boomstick or the meteor medieval upgrades later on in the game. They hit like freight trains. Every time I pulled the trigger, it felt like ripping a hole through hell itself. And speaking of the feel, the bullet damage, the gore, the dismemberment are top notch. This kind of meaty, reactive combat just isn't in enough games anymore. When you blast a demon and see their flesh peel off, the limbs fly, chunks of bone and muscle spraying out, it's so satisfying in the most primal way. Enemies don't just fall over, they get torn apart, and it sells every shot. That layered destruction combined with the sound design gives every weapon real presence. And every tool has its place, and when you start rotating between them mid-fight, especially during the bigger encounters, it feels really good. Now we've got to talk about the glory kills. In Doom 2016 and Eternal, glory kills were a part of the rhythm. You would soften a demon up, jump in, crack its skull in two, and keep moving. They were fast, satisfying, and they felt earned. In the Dark Ages, though, they're slower, the animations drag, and there's this weird clunkiness to them that kind of kills the pace. I found myself avoiding them unless I absolutely needed health, which defeats the whole purpose. These should be a reward and not a chore. A huge missed opportunity there. I did see some things online saying that they, adjusted them a bit because they were originally, breaking up the flow of the game too much. I disagree wholeheartedly there. Now, the visuals. The visuals are another area where the game drops the ball. I get the whole medieval, grim, dark vibe that they were going for, but the color palette looks like someone dumped a bucket of gray over the whole game. Everything's washed out, muddy, flat, and it's not bad looking. There's detail in the environments, the armor designs are cool, and some areas definitely stand out, but overall, it just lacks the visual pop that the last two games had. I miss the sharp contrast, the glowing hellscapes, the punchy reds, and the greens, and this one just felt muted, and that hurts the overall energy of the game. That being said, credit where credit is due. The destructibility in the environments is awesome. Blowing out walls, crushing structures mid-fight, watching chunks of the level collapse under the chaos. I absolutely love that. It adds a real weight to the battles, like the world itself is reacting to the carnage that you're causing. It's one of the little things that make the whole experience feel more dynamic. And now, the part that some people might hate me for, the mech and the dragon sections didn't do it for me. The mech, Atlan, or whatever they're calling it looks cool. Sure, the giant robots throwing down with demons, sounds like a slam dunk. But playing it felt stiff, like the game took your toys away and said, just sit in this tank for a bit. Same with the dragon, you're riding this beast across hell, and I should have been pumped. Instead, I was checking my watch. The moments didn't add anything, they slowed things down, in fact. They weren't awful, don't get me wrong, they're not terrible, they're just overall unnecessary. And, Doom doesn't need gimmicks. It's Doom. Give me an arena, a shotgun, and a bunch of demons to turn into red soup. That is all I want at the end of the day. On the performance side, no major complaints. The game ran smooth for the most part. I played it on a base PS5, and I only had a couple of frame dips, and it was during those big, chaos-filled moments where the screen's just flooded with demons and particle effects. Nothing game-breaking, just enough to notice. Otherwise, rock solid. Props to ID for optimizing it well, especially with everything going on under the hood. But here's the thing. I don't regret playing the Dark Ages. Not even close, because when it clicks, when you're deep in the groove and the metal's blurring and the blood's flying, it still delivers. That core Doom feeling, the rage, the speed, the violence, it's all still there. You just have to push past a few missteps to get to it. And I think ID Software, they wanted to experiment a little, try something different, and I respect that. Not every change landed, some outright backfired, but I'd rather a team take some swings than pump out the same game over and over again. You can tell that there was love put into this. Vision. They just got a little too caught up in the aesthetics and forgot what made Doom, Doom in a few key spots. Final thoughts, honestly, I think I might prefer this over Eternal. Yeah, I said it, don't get me wrong, Eternal was a masterclass in pure momentum. That thing moved like a demon possessed, but sometimes it almost moved too fast. It felt like I was juggling chainsaws, ammo, platforming puzzles, enemy weak points all at once, while getting screamed at by a guitar. The Dark Ages slows it down just enough to breathe. There's more weight, more punch, and honestly, I like that. It felt more like a brute force Demon Slayer game, again. Not a demonic gymnast doing spreadsheets in mid-air. The new pacing grew on me hard over time. Now, if they could clean up the glory kills, bring back a little more color and energy in the visuals, and skip the gimmicky rides next time, we could be looking at something, the best, we could be looking at something really special, the best version of Doom yet. This one just needs a little bit more time in the forge. Still, I think if you're a fan of the series, the Dark Ages is absolutely worth your time, and it's definitely worth your $70. Even with its flaws, it's got that core brutality that makes Doom what it is, and in my case, it scratched an itch that I didn't know that I had. Rip and tear, just a little slower this time. And for what it's worth, I picked up the $99 edition. I got to play it 2 days early, and it came with the 2-story DLCs later on down the line. No regrets there either. If they can tighten up a few things in those expansions, we might be looking at something really special. Anyways, that's all I got. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you later.